Africa.
Nice.
All right, peace, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, friends and enemies. This is We Act Radio, broadcasting live on the radical side of Monarchy Avenue, the underbelly of the nation's capital, the foothill of Cedar Hill, the line of Anacostia Frederick Douglass home. I'm Kimon Freeman, Angry Black Man in Therapy. I'm joined by an illustrious group of people who's going to talk about culture and what connects us. We're going to talk about the Rhythm and Steel Tour.com that's happening right now. The first stop is right here in Washington, D.C. A steel band straight from Trinidad is here. They didn't bring no big shark sandwiches. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but they are here. They will be doing a live performance Saturday at 7 p.m. at the Entertainment Sports Complex, sponsored by the Mayor's Office of Caribbean Affairs and Events DC. I'm going to roll out the red carpet or the black carpet and make sure that we pack that place tomorrow, and you get your tickets at rhythmandsteeltour.com. And we just want to say that before we get started, we have to acknowledge that genocide is going on. We fly a Palestinian flag on top of this building here, and we want to just say, in the words of Noam Chomsky, who just celebrated his 95th birthday yesterday, that the one-time murder of innocent civilians is not a fight against terrorism. It is terrorism. All right? Genocide Joe, do something. All right, now, having said that, instead of talking about the beating the war drums, we talking about the steel drums. So explain to us and introduce yourselves what the steel drums mean to you, because we went from displaced, I should say displaced, reused, repurposed oil drums. That's funny that we call them oil drums into steel drums. Let's tell that story and introduce yourselves and what the steel drum means to you.
So it's great being here. I'm Colin Greaves. I'm the president of the BP Renegades Steel Orchestra, the world's greatest steel orchestra.
World's great.
World's greatest, come on, world's greatest. I'm just going to let everybody introduce themselves and then I'll come back and answer those questions.
Eureka Huggins, cultural activist among many others, but international relations policy expert.
Check.
Paul Spires, DC advocate, lead singer of the Blackbirds, a DC native, third generation, and a DC resident, who is also the leader, manager, lead singer, band director of Just Paul and the Brothers.
All right,
So let me tell you.
Y'all can make donations to We Act Radio, a Newton Media Group, on Cash App, because we need new equipment. So don't touch the cord, just touch the mic.
Okay. We good?
Yeah, whenever it stops numbing, you got it.
I'm good here.
There you go.
All right. So, steel pan. So y'all like Americans call it the steel drums. That's funny, but we call it the steel pans, but it's made from an oil drum, right? So just so as you know, I think I gave this a little history lesson before, but post-slavery, the Africans in Trinidad and Tobago were using African drumming and stuff to continue their celebrations and stuff like that. And then the African drumming was banned by government or the colonizers back then. And then they started to use what we call like tambour bamboos and stuff. So they would take bamboo shoots, cut them, and then beat them at different spots on the bamboos, tapping them on the ground and making rhythm to create like a rhythm bands to go down through the parades and stuff. And then that was banned. Said it was damaging the roadway. And then after that, they started, of course, and I guess while I was going on, using other types of things that they would pick up and hit and play to make rhythms. So they would pick up discarded biscuit tins and dustbin can lids and different things. And of course, that then led to an evolution to the instrument that we see today. So they would have started with biscuit tins and different types of metal, stuff like that. They would, the founders and stuff back then, they would have played around with different ways of getting sound out of these biscuit tins and stuff. And as evolution, I guess with anything else, you start to try to improve what you're doing. So you might firstly get three or four notes, and then you have what we call it ping pong, and then you start to experiment and say, okay, if I get a bigger surface to hit these notes out of, okay, cool, if I burn it, I can now control the metal a little bit more. If I hit it with a hammer in the corner, I can get a different tone out of it. Oh, look, I can get this tone. And that process led to the evolution. Of course, Trinidad and Tobago being a country that's oil and gas rich, and oil and gas has been our major economic driver of our economy. Oil barrels were in abundance. So in the early days, in the 1940s, 1950s, oil companies, that's still around today, Shell, Amoco, and they were operating out of Trinidad and Tobago. And the steel pan men started using oil drums to make the instruments. So that's why we call it that's why we say it's an actual oil drum. Yeah. So the challenge is that they would take the oil drum, they would have cleaned it out, cut it to different lengths, of course, cut the bottom open and stuff like that, cut the bottom open and stuff like that. And they would have gotten, used that to get the different types of instruments. Of course, what is it? Necessity is the mother of all invention. So they would have been doing that, but over the years we started moving away from that and actually creating steel drums, as in taking the metal and making a circular face. And the reason why is that over the years, many of the iconic steel pan makers, many of them suffered from different types of ailments because remember, that's toxic materials they were dealing with. So they would take an oil drum without any PPE. I mean, in 1930s, PPE wasn't a thing that it is now. And similarly, some of these drums would have different types of adhesives or chemicals and stuff like that. And they would just simply wash them out and start using them. So many of them were getting sick from the toxic materials in these drums. So as we've evolved and we've started moving towards safer practices, we moved away from the 55-gallon oil drum to a large extent, and now we make the actual drum. So Pan Tobago, which is the world governing body of steel pan that kind of manages steel pan affairs in Trinidad and Tobago, they ship in metals and stuff, and they have machines that make it. And it looks just like a drummer, you can't tell the difference. But the difference is it's a much safer practice for the practitioners who are making the pans and tuning them and stuff. That's a good intro? Explain?
Good.
All right, good.
Let's pass it on now. And say your name again, Mama.
For you. No, because I think it's important. Today, what we are doing, which is so important, Kimon, is we are looking at the musical and the spiritual, cultural linkages between the steel pan and go-go coming out of those enslaved, out of the bunch of slavery, basically. So I'm going to pass it on to this brother here, who is the go-go expert.
Yes. So check. Go-go is go-go and the steel pan. We can affiliate these things with the African diaspora, right? And so, in fact, they're directly related to the African diaspora. And what happens is that we get a chance to, one, recognize that we've never let go of who we truly are, no matter how far you take us from the motherland. We never actually let go. In fact, it happens in a way where we actually spread that culture more. It's really it's a contradiction of what they're trying to do when they try to take away our culture. We spread it more, right? But so go-go and the steel pan, I would say, one, are examples of African communication, right? The drum is a cell phone. In the words of Keith Kilgo, my mentor from the Blackbirds out of Howard University, a drum is a cell phone, right? And it's just like Kimon might have said a few minutes ago off air. He said communication is the first line of defense. And so what better way to stop these enslaved Africans from defending themselves than to cut off their communication? And the reason why we still see these things happening today, one of these things that led to the Don't Mute DC movement, is that they still see us as those enslaved Africans. And they can't stop the communication, because communication in our eyes or in our ears and amongst our bodies means to, one, our first subject of communication is, hey, we need to unite. The first thing black people say, I'm going to say black, but black is not a nation, but I'm going to just use this for population, should be. But if we, and that corresponds with that, our first thing we always say is we need to be united. And so since music, and specifically the steel drum or steel pan and go-go music, brings people together, specifically black people, it is it's alarming to the powers that be. It's alarming to the colonizers. It's alarming, and so I think we hold a very similar piece in our cultures with that. And I think there's something that we can do to collaborate. And I mentioned it earlier. Rare Essence, Locket. That song has a steel pan on it. No one's literally playing an actual steel pan. It's the keyboard with the sound on it. But if we were to bring, because here in DC we do have a thing where we have a Caribbean event with a go-go event, but it's never, in my opinion, really in the depths. It does not dig into one Caribbean culture and then merge it with DC's culture. And I think we have an opportunity here with Trinidad and Tobago to bring the steel pan and bring the go-go band, right? And specifically the conga, okay? Because that's what go-go is. If you take away the congas, we call them Congos, but Congo is a nation.
We do as well.
Yeah.
Right? If we take that away, you're not playing go-go. You got to go swing on some drums. You may have a cowbell that's cute. You're not playing go-go without the congas. And it's 4 of them. There's a tumbadora on the very end for the low sound, the low end sound, the conga drum, and then 2 junior congas. And again, that is the thing that we use to communicate. I do want to I want to directly go back to Africa with one beat from one song that we have here that started by a band that is not too far from here in Berry Farms. The Junkyard Band has a song called Sardines. And in Sardines, the beat is boop boop ba 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 da ba boop boop ba 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 ba, which is very, very close to the West African rhythm called Kassa, which is used for celebration, it's used for graduation. It's the same beat, it's just one little pause in there, but it's pretty much the same beat, and I think it proves itself because every time Sardine plays, there's not a dull moment in that. It feels like a celebration. It feels like it's supposed to feel because that's what that beat is, and I think we got something very, very similar here between.
And what are the instruments that they initially played on, and hence their name, Junkyard Band?
Yes, they played on pots and pans.
Exactly.
So isn't that crazy? It's right there in our faces, which is a beautiful thing. I think we got something we can be collaborating on with this. Right there. I'm glad you made that point.
You see, even through the oppression and degradation of slavery, right? People of African descent have always found ways to express their true cultural identity. The drum, right, which we consider is the heartbeat of the Creator. The drum always played a central role in traditional African life. It is the life itself, right? And so the drum and the dancers cannot dance without the drummers. And every occasion, like celebration of rites of passage, wedding ceremony, you name it, the drummers drum, the dancers drum, but they are all in sync with each other because there are different rhythms for different occasions. There are different costumes that go with different rhythms, with different dances. So it's not disarray. Everything is in order. Everything is in order. And so we see that even with the steel pan, we see that in the go-go, we still see the call and response, right? Because in the steel pan, the tenors and the bass, they're all calling and respond, and go-go is the same thing. So there's just, it takes us back to our roots of who we are as African people.
I want to talk about how we was
raises money so we can do our work. How was the Rhythm and Steel Tour able to come about? How many cities is it going to? What is the resources that you was able to raise to make it happen? How is it that the Mayor's Office of Caribbean Affairs supported this, which is a rarity to see such government funding for such needed and important cultural arts? I just want to talk about the business side, how this came about, and so that people can be inspired and motivated and know that we are not a defeated permanent underclass and that there are resources for our work and we don't have to sell our souls to make a living. We can actually do it our way and be authentic to ourselves and to our culture. because you are a success in that regard, and you're inspiring others. But if you can just peek behind the Wizard of Oz curtain a little bit and share some best practices so that other people and other artists can do the same.
That's a real heavy question. So the thing is well, firstly, let me touch on here in the U.S. So in the U.S., BP Renegade is represented by our agents who are Caribbean Productions, and they are the ones who we tasked with the responsibility of making strategic partnerships and kicking doors open to see how best they can, facilitate cultural exchange programs and things like that. So of course, it's the same model back in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, we start with having to conceptualize an event or activity, understand why we're doing it, what's the basis for it, understanding what's the mission and the vision and why it's important to do. Once we've determined that, we then look for strategic partners. So it's not just about, I need money to do this. It's like, you want to do something because it's important. It's important because it helps preserve cultural identity, it helps strengthen, it helps at-risk youth, it helps support communities. There's so many different things, right? So when you find that, you start to send proposals and stuff, you write different corporate entities, sponsors, government bodies and stuff like that. But of course it always helps and works when you're well networked. Because let's be real, there's no shortage of people asking for money. And not even within our community or anything like that. This is just the world. There's no shortage of people sending proposals. I mean, back in Trinidad, in the job that I do, I work for a telecommunications company. Like I tell you, every single day when I was managing sponsorships, I would easily get hundreds of emails or sponsor proposals coming in every single day. Now the thing is, company doesn't have unlimited resources, so you then have to try to figure out, okay, how am I going to pick this one versus that one? Sad to say, it is easier when I know you and I'm like, okay, cool, at least I know this person. I know the integrity of what they're doing, they're credible, because let's be real, on the flip side, there are also many projects that come forward that have scams behind them, that happen and they take the money and disappear. I mean, that's also, and sometimes we don't realize that this history of when things like this happen, and we know of groups and stuff that source funding and they don't do any proper reports, and they don't account for the money, and they don't produce what they say they're going to produce. These things are what also makes it more difficult for everybody else that comes after them to find access to this type of funding. Not to mention, in terms of the strategy of finding the right company that supports the things that you're interested in. There are many organizations around the world, communities, etc., that have funding put aside and available. There's tons of grant funding and things like that. But of course, some of these things become very difficult to access. You have to have a bunch of registration documents. You have to have this, you have to go this one. Sometimes the forms are very intricate and technically difficult to fill out. I mean, anybody I think has gone through grant funding and realized how they almost want to take you, pull you over, shake you out, shake everything you have on the floor. So, and it's the same thing back home in Trinidad and Tobago. It is not easy. I can let you know that even for this tour, it was extremely difficult to get funding for this trip. Now, I'm going to close, you'll see that we're BP Renegade. So we are sponsored by BP. Huge global company. Fun fact, BP Renegades, this is our 53rd consecutive year of BP being our title sponsor. First Amoco, the American oil company, and then BP Amoco, and then BP, right? This relationship with the Renegades is one of their, and it may actually be their longest running corporate sponsorship anywhere on the planet. And it's because they saw value in what they did within the community. Now, how did that start up?
I was going to ask you.
Yes.
So how did that started up actually was from the government. So this is where it comes in terms of government policy, and it wasn't necessarily a government rule, but it was more of a request, but where it came from. So back then, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, through the Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, realized that within the steel pan communities, there was a lot of unrest. So as you mentioned, the product itself, the instrument, came from grassroots community, what do you refer to it as? Discarded materials and stuff like that.
Repurposed.
Right, repurposed. So I always say steel pan is a great recycling project. You know, when you look at what it turned into, right? It's a fantastic recycling story. But the thing is that these were poor, black, at-risk, urban-based communities throughout the entire country. So they would create these instruments and they'd be so passionate about it that many times they would do anything to defend it. So imagine you have one steel band coming up the street, one steel band going down the street, and they come up head and head. It's fight, real fight, bottle thing, chop, all kind of thing. And it was a problematic back in the formative years, the 1940s and stuff, and 1950s, where it became such a very big stigma, where she couldn't go home and tell her mom that she was going to date a steel band man. That's crazy. You'd be like, there was a huge taboo about it. But on the flip side, people understood that, oh, look, this thing is bringing these young black men together. It's keeping them away from crime and drugs and gun violence and stuff. It's literally teaching them music. And we just need to figure out how to harness that a little better. So instead of becoming physical fighters, we need the bands to become musical fighters. So what they started doing was creating sorts of competitions and engagement things for the bands to be occupied. And then 1963 entered the National Panorama Competition, which just this year was the 60th anniversary, where each year bands would then focus on becoming the National Panorama Champions. And that's like the Super Bowl of steel pan in terms of the prestige of the title. So firstly, one of those things how they stopped the fighting was one, create forums for bands to have outlets to express their music as musical fighters and not physical fighters. So there's also something called the bomb competition. So in Carnival you would have where a band would want to drop the bomb on Carnival, Juve morning. And in order to drop the bomb, you would go in your room and you would hide with your band, go up in an attic somewhere, go behind a building and rehearse. Sometimes you have to play with your fingers because you don't want the band down the road to hear what song you're coming with.
Would you say drop the bomb?
Yeah, that's what it's called. So it's called the Juve Bomb Competition.
Yes. Okay, one of my biggest go-go records is Drop the Bomb.
You see?
Okay.
So, but the concept there is that somebody bands will even rehearse with their fingers.
Yeah, and shout out to the Gap Band with the GAP, that's the Green Archer and Pine, where they dropped the bomb on Black Wall Street. Yeah, just want to put it out there. Content. All right.
Yeah. So on Juve morning, a band would come on. When they come on, they would play. I mean, again, now it's a musical competition. So they'll play intricate classics in calypso rhythm, or they would play the top pop tunes from the Beatles. It would always be something like, what can we do to catch people? That when we drop the thing, you get the from the crowd and you win there. And back then, prize money is like $1. So it's not even about the prize, it's more about the prestige. And so that's what, if you think about it, from physical fighters to musical fighters. But of course, to fight musically, you need funding. As much as we all love it and you have the passion and energy, it requires money. So the then Prime Minister, Dr. Carrick Williams, started reaching out to companies and encouraged companies to adopt steel bands. So for instance, our band was Renegades, and you had many other bands. There was Invaders, which was another one of the first sponsored bands in Trinidad, and they were sponsored by Shell. Shell is still around, a huge oil company. So there's the Shell Invaders, there's the BP Renegades, there's Nutrient, Silver Stars, and most of the top companies in Trinidad sponsor steel bands. The banking sector, Royal Bank of Canada, RBC, there's the RBC Redemption Sound Centers, there's Republic Bank, Exodus, Massey, one of the largest conglomerates in the Caribbean, there's the Massey Trinidad All Stars, there's National Gas Company, there's the NGC Cooper Joylanders. So as you go down the list, companies started to realize, the government approached companies and said, I need you to adopt a ban. So before Amoco even extracted a barrel of oil from Trinidad and Tobago, they were sponsoring Renegades. They started sponsoring Renegades the year before they started their official operations and drilling for oil and stuff. But the catch was, if the bands fought physically, they would automatically lose their sponsorship. So that way, that was the incentive to keep the bands and them from fighting and stuff like that. So with the advent of...
I just want to say that they was being paid to not be violent. Right?
So I just want
to put it out there.
Shameless self-promotion. So the point here is that they was rewarded financially for staying out of trouble and not being violent. Hence, a guaranteed income has been proven to decrease crime by over 65%. So when they talk about scratching their head, they don't know what to do about this crime. Get rid of poverty by over 65% with a guaranteed income that was supported by Martin Luther King. And that's not just here in D.C., that's around the country. Because when Richmond, California had a higher per capita murder rate than New York City, that's what they did. And their crime rate went down by, guess what, over 65%. And when DC had an opportunity to do it here with a NEAR Act, they was laughed at and attacked by the Washington Post, the mayor, and half the council turned their backs on that. And then they want to talk about they have no idea what to do, more police and blah, 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 blah. They need to follow your example that has another proven point to compensate these people to stay out of trouble, and that is the best way to have a peaceful and a successful community. Just want to put that out there. This is We Act Radio. Do something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
I wish we had the audience.
That's right.
So the thing is that now with that model, remember, with corporate sponsorship, it's not just about money. So if you look at the 53 years that Amoko and BP has been with Renegades, it's not just about money. Yeah, money is great. It helps you buy new instruments and things, but it's also about teaching you skills that you didn't have before. So they took young black men, many would have been violent and in other things, and they taught them skills. They taught them how to behave in certain sections. They actually invested in human resource capital. So they took them and they gave them lessons and training in managerial skills, in entrepreneurship. They encouraged them to, how are we going to develop the panyard where the band is stationed, what we can do there to ensure that you guys have a sustainable operation. Are you going to open a bar? Are you going to have a gift shop? Are you going to sell things? What can you do? Or what merchandising can you have? And they would have invested in training the young men in the band to then be able to become self-sustainable and manage these things properly. So it's because many times people get money and it's done. But without training and support and a continuous relationship and the lifestyle is not sustainable, it's just money thrown up in the air. So yeah, it's great to have the money to do one-off projects, but it's so much better to actually invest into people. And then if you fast forward to 1999, we created the Renegades Youth Steel Orchestra. And the Renegades Youth Steel Orchestra became a deliberate institution that was designed, and it became our music academy that was designed to take at-risk youth from the community. I mean, if you come to Trinidad, you see, and where Renegades is from, we're from an at-risk community. We're from an urban center where East Port of Spain, it's what do you call it? The hood. It was the hood. We came from the hood, right? However, by taking these children off the streets and sometimes away from the things of what they see every day, bringing them to a safe space and teaching them skills that they can use later on in life. So we teach them not only to play band, we teach them to read, we teach them to do homework, we teach them music theory. Many people who've passed through the Renegades Youth Academy are now music teachers in university. Some of them have joined the Coast Guard, they have joined different things. But everybody would tell you, it comes back to the discipline they've learned in being in the Panyard, the relationship, the family, the value system that they've gotten from being in the Panyard. And all of this, of course, again, requires funding. So by having BP, by having support from the government, our youth academy actually started as an anti-crime initiative. The Renegades Youth Steel Orchestra in 1999 was done in partnership with the Ministry of National Security. So the Ministry of National Security said, hey, let's try a project. Renegades, we want to work with you guys. If we create a forum where we can take these kids, work with them, teach them music, make a little club, a little family out of them, let's see where that goes. Today, that was in 1999, we're in 2023, most of the members of the senior orchestra that we have today, right now in our core band, came from that junior band in 1999. And 2000, they still stayed. They stayed within the band. They made friends, they made family, some of them got married to each other, they have kids together, and they've kind of become this unit that, again, continue playing steel band, continue doing something positive, look out for each other, so it's like this little network of group that, they all check for each other, they keep each other in check as well. And the thing is that when you look at it, the ambassador, Anthony Philip Spencer, said, steel band, this is not a moment, it's a movement. And it's like, when you understand that and you get projects like this that come from the grassroots, from the bowel of the community, and you get the corporate sponsors, the government policy, the additional support, the inter-community support to come out, buy things, buy tickets, buy t-shirts, that funding goes toward growing and making it grow exponentially and touch more lives and stuff like that. And that's kind of how holistic it was. So it's not just one thing. It's not just government funding. It's not just corporate sponsorship. It's selling t-shirts like this. When during the carnival season, we can sell up to 5,000 t-shirts. We make hundreds of thousands of dollars selling t-shirts. And that's just from people visiting our shows and stuff like that. And similarly, when we look at all the different things, performances, we've apart from the academy, we've created a band that is paid for hire. They get paid when they perform, so they travel the world getting paid, and they now use this money to fund their families and stuff like that. So it's a big circle that took 75 years to figure out, because it's our 75th anniversary. But it seems to be working pretty well for us, and I think it's a model that here in DC, we were doing a workshop last time, and we saw great potential in when people from the community. Where was that?
Kenilworth Recreation Center.
Speaking to the mic.
They did a workshop yesterday. They did a workshop yesterday at Kenilworth. Don't shock me. At Kenilworth Recreation Center. And the young people, I mean, they were amazed. These little kids, they couldn't get away from the steel pan. They couldn't get away from it. So one of the importance of us having this conversation is exactly what he's saying right here. So that the go-go music, the industry here in DC can learn from the steel pan, develop your academies, develop your institutions, get your sponsorship, bring in the young people from in the hood, bring them into these spaces where they can learn, where they can grow, but also help them to see beyond DC, right? Help them to connect with the youth in Trinidad. Let them see the global African diaspora. Connect with youth on the continent. So I think this is something that's coming out, and this is one of the support that we hope from the mayor's office on Caribbean and Community Affairs.
What needs to happen to make
Yes.
that happen? What needs to happen to make that happen?
Well, we already planted the seeds right now. What you are doing right now is having this conversation, beginning to plant these seeds, and hopefully when you go back home, you all can begin to communicate with each other, right? And begin the practices. And I know there's some other things, we can't say a whole lot right now because there are things that are being discussed, but we hope that we can have these cultural exchanges. We need youth ambassadors here in Southeast DC, in Ward 7 and Ward 8. We need these young people to see beyond these borders and to see their impact. And so culture is a way, and the commonality of the drum, coming out of our bondage, coming out of our enslavement, that's the commonality that we can move forward with. So this is just one idea.
Okay, sure. Okay, but hold on, before we go, you're from Trinidad.
I was born in Trinidad, yeah.
So what did the steel drum mean to you as you was growing up in Trinidad and led you to this moment?
I think growing up in Trinidad, it was like a core part of the culture. I mean, it's in you. It was the drum that we connected with. And I lived in an area, actually born in Success Village, Laventille, where it's like almost like you call the hood where the pan was founded, right? And then grew up for the most part in Digger Martin, which, you know, it's kind of like a border, mostly middle class, but the root of who we are as African people, that drum is what spoke to us. That steel pan is what spoke to us. So coming here, you know, I kind of got away from it, but I am like reconnecting more. Even my brother has a steel pan in Trinidad, but it's a small pan, it's community. But exactly what he said, what they do in the community, for the youth in the community, I am telling you, it connects, it brings the young people together, it produces values, it helps them to stay connected with each other, connected to who they are. So, I mean, there's a lot I think that the go-go music can do for our youth. It's already doing it, right? But I think we need to go a step further in terms of establishing institutions, right? In terms of teaching the young people the music, helping them see where it came from, where they can go. So there's a lot to say.
Quick question. Well, two things. Well, in Trinidad we have over 200 steel bands. So two questions. One, how many like go-go bands within communities you'll have? And two, how do go-go bands get corporate sponsorship? So example, is there a Bank of America go-go blah blah blah? Or is there a da 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 da? I don't know.
And you know what? That's the part of what you were saying that excited me. Second most, first most is the fact that we're talking about youth work. I have a nonprofit organization that I'm creating, waiting for the articles of organization, all the documents that I need. But everything is the ball is rolling. It's called Kids Crank. So what it does is it removes the youth from the drill music lifestyle, that poison music that we've become so accustomed to, and brings them into musicianship through go-go. Go-go being Washington, D.C.'s official music genre through legislation, but it already was that back in the day. So now we're talking about when we were children. Go-go bands that I grew up on aren't go-go bands who started with guys in their 40s, right? Those go-go bands started with youth. Junkyard, those are youth. Rare Essence, those are youth. Everybody started as youth. And so I'm excited to hear that it's not just us believing that getting these kids into go-go or into musicianship does save their lives. If you talk to James Funk or you talk to Sugar Bear, they'll tell you that being in the go-go band kept them busy. I was too busy to go and be in the streets because I had to be at rehearsal. And I didn't want to be like the drug dealer on the street because I had my own sense of stardom on this stage, right? I had my own popularity, so I did not have to follow those guys over there. I didn't want to risk my freedom and miss my show, right? And so that's one of the things that Kids Crank does. And there's a youth organization here in DC that teaches the children to steel pan. It's gonna come to my mind, and I'm gonna give you guys the contact info as soon as I get a chance. But I got a chance to see them in Deanwood. They was east of the river.
They were there last night.
Yeah. And they cranking. They sound good. And I think that's the chance right there to collaborate right there with the youth, because we can do this with adults all day and get funding for adult bands to do their thing. But there's a band called the Future Band who just took go-go over into Cuba, right, to go and teach go-go to youth in Havana. And so these type of efforts have to continue. Now, the sponsorship piece. The DC's, when we made go-go the official music genre of Washington, D.C., on paper, I have to always say on paper because it always was our music. But when we made that a thing on paper, we put a $3 million budget behind it. $3 million ain't enough to fund go-go. First of all, go-go is $1 billion industry. So saying that we're helping it with $3 million, it's a little bit, it's kind of disrespectful.
You say go-go is $1 billion
It's
industry.
$1 billion industry. We have saved businesses by using go-go. We have found ways to gather people to purchase from small businesses, big businesses through go-go. And so now it's not a secret. If you ride around the entire DC, Maryland, and Virginia, you can go into restaurants that are based on go-go, right? Apollo Burger, DC Creative Institute on 8th Street, Ben's Chili Bowl itself, its heart and soul is go-go. I don't want to.
This is from Trinidad.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to.
Yes, hold up. Say that again.
They're from Trinidad.
Yo,
The owners are
say
from
the whole
Trinidad.
thing. The
So
whole thing.
Ben's Chili Bowl's heart and soul is based on go-go, and the owners are from
Trinidad.
Right.
The connection.
Here's another fun fact. We have a Trinidad neighborhood here in DC.
I understand. Yeah, Trinidad and DC means something different. It's like these two. It's gentrification.
Yeah,
Gentrification.
exactly. That is one of the most obvious gentrified neighborhoods in DC.
Yep.
So the corporate sponsorships. There have been bands that maybe have gotten a sponsorship from Adidas, right? But it's not funding. They'll give the clothes, which does nothing but promote this brand. And shout out to them for doing that. It's an effort into participating into the go-go community. But to get a corporate sponsorship to push a band in DC is not heard of. That has not happened in Washington, D.C., at least not out loud, right? I think it's interesting how you said that the government suggested it. And I would like for our government to suggest something like that. Because as of right now, the Latin percussion company creates the junior congas. And I travel the world, and anytime I heard a smaller conga sound, it was the bongos. I've never seen junior congas outside of Washington, D.C., which is obviously to say that they created those because of Washington, D.C. So there should be a LP Rare Essence fan, right? There should be a Remy, what's the symbol joint? Remy Junkyard Band, right? They can take these corporate sponsorships or corporate ideas and turn them into sponsorships, right? But it has to be suggested. And you don't say it out loud now, so it ain't no going back. So, you know, a lot of these bands are playing at restaurants, and, you know, if it's going to take some time to really think about who to approach, because it sounds like the government in Trinidad actually said, okay, because these come from oil, we're talking about the pan that they came in, so it corresponds with.
Actually, no, you know, sponsors of like
Mike.
well, actually, not really. I mean, bands from way back when have been sponsored by, in Trinidad at least, by Pepsi, Coca-Cola, by drink companies, by Caribbean, by Caribbean Airlines, by you name it. Like, these are all the big companies, insurance companies. Sagicor is sponsored
Now
by.
you got an example.
Trucking companies.
Yes.
You've had Junior Sammy.
Yeah,
You've
exactly.
had, like, over the years, there's been no BWIA or previous airline, Petrotrin, oil and gas. I mean, you name it. Like, they've been very large, and sometimes not even huge companies, sometimes community-based companies. Like, it's not necessarily oil only, but it's everybody. Drinks, alcohol, food brands. Like, look at Massey Trinidad All Stars. Massey is one of the largest conglomerates in the Caribbean, but they have a supermarket chain. They have production companies that deal with engineering and different things. It's not just anything related to pan at all. It's just, as a corporate social responsibility,
Right.
it's basically
Exactly.
them understanding, yo, I extract value from these people. I sell my product, they purchase it, they help put me on this pedestal, they contribute to my company's success. My company has a responsibility to contribute back to them being the best versions of themselves. Because of course,
Community benefits agreement.
yeah. So what we've been doing is that in Trinidad, it's definitely, and it's not just I'm gonna make it very clear, it's also not charity.
Right.
When companies sponsor Steel Band, the immense sense of pride and joy. Like, I can tell you, for instance, in Trinidad and Tobago, I've known very personally all of the presidents, the past presidents of BP, who come to Trinidad, like David Campbell and team in Trinidad. He's the president of BP. He frequents the Panyard. You have the CEOs and the chairpersons of banks, of the banking sector, government ministers, they frequent Panyards because they understand, yo, while these 180 kids are here, as you mentioned, they're not out there.
Right.
So if they're in here doing something, I need to go there and like support them doing that.
Right.
So, and then out of that, I mean, you also see so many mobile companies, telecommunications companies, because every kid has a cell phone.
Right.
So there are countless opportunities where you see the intersection of how corporate social responsibility really comes up. Because you and I can't solve crime. You and I cannot solve crime, we cannot solve the social ills. That's just not going to happen, realistically. However, we can do our part, they can do their part, they can help with the funding, they can create facilitation, and again, I go back to, it's not just about giving money. It's about giving support, it's about showing interest, it's about saying, how can I help you? What you guys need next? Oh, you need some furniture? Okay, let's get you some furniture. Oh, you need this wall replastered? We can help you get that done. Oh, we had our Panyard repaved while we were on tour here in DC, but BP handled that. They were like, you know what, okay, you all need the Panyard repaved, we're going to get that done for you. And the thing is that, think about it, if you're practicing somewhere, you can get a corporate sponsor to fix your storefront, or to help you with some instruments, or to help you with uniforms and all those different things. Like, that help you travel, help take the kids on a tour, help them go and do a cultural exchange in another country to see the opportunities that exist, and that their kids just like them, that are playing music just like theirs, that came from on the pavement. Like, there's a guy in Renegades who, his nickname is Bucket, because he was a bucket drummer. He drums on, we call them pigtail buckets. I don't know what you call them up here.
You call it what?
Pigtail. Side note. So pigtail is a big thing in Trinidad. We love to eat pigtail. We take it, you know that? Pigtail, we love pigtail. This barbecue it, they take it and they make a pigtail and rice. They do all kinds of pigtail. But it was cured in these big buckets, like these big white buckets. And they would cure it or whatever. And then people flip them over and wash them out, and people drum on them. and do different things. So when you can take these different skills that all these children have, because everyone is not the same, and many times people turn to alternate paths in life because they get frustrated and they feel like the system has given up on them. And okay, I may not be the best reader. Okay, I don't understand the music theory. No, I may not like this, but I can do something. You know, I can play a drum. I can beat this. I can shake a tambourine. I can work with the. We have people who work with our stage crew. They just follow the band around to set us up and break down stuff when we have performances and things like that. So there are ways to engage the community in so many different ways. And the great thing is when you can get the community to adopt the band, which is also very important, just like a football team, just like y'all call it soccer, but we call it football.
They call it soccer.
Yeah, because I was like,
yeah,
because like it's like football.
Yeah.
But when you have like a football team that comes from the community, and whenever they're playing, the entire community comes out. It's the same thing with a steel band. During Panorama competition, I'll show you guys some videos of what our Panyan looks like. Thousands and thousands of people come to see us perform. Thousands. You cannot get in. The street is blocked off. People have to park. Like it's crazy. And that's just one band. Actually, there are over 200 bands in the country. So think about when you can take this and spread them just strategically over the entire country, and in every little circle you can keep all of these youth positively engaged and show them, oh yeah, let's go connect with a go-go band. Let's sync up a performance. You have to constantly be giving them projects and things to look forward to. It's like in school, you don't just go to school forever. You go to school because at the end you want to get a diploma or a certificate or whatever. So similarly, when we do these things, we have to let them understand, okay, you know what? Next year we're going to work on a trip to this place. We're going to get you a performance in this. We're going to host a concert here. And that way, you constantly have them working towards something. They stay dedicated, committed. And most importantly, at the end of it, there's a sense of satisfaction that I have done well. There's a sense of personal pride and joy that I have done this thing. I have learned, wow, mom, dad, look what I did. Auntie, look, I've done this. You know, because again, let's be real. Many of these people who participate, they have nothing else that they can be proud of. Many of them don't finish school. Sometimes when they struggle, they might never get a trophy in their life, they might never get a plaque. But when you take them and you have them in the band and they're learning and you take them all over. Yesterday, we received a proclamation from the mayor of DC, mayor's office, as well as the governor of Maryland. And the thing is, when we go back to the people who play in our band, that's somebody from East Dry River, the hood, as you mentioned, whose father got murdered over the last 2 years, whose mother was abused or whatever, who struggled to finish school. In a million years, they never thought they would be in the governor's office in Maryland, sitting in the parliamentary chamber, receiving a proclamation with media all around and stuff. And did that cost the world $1 billion? No. It just cost somebody to put some effort to teach them some music and create some partnerships and we get it done. So when I definitely see where we as the BP Renegades could support what you guys do as the go-go bands, because it's the same thing. It's the same thing. We just play steel pan and all the music. Like it's the same thing. And it has the same energy behind. Like how long your band has been around? Like how long you guys are?
Man, it's been about 6 years now for just Paul and the Brothers.
Right, so for us, this is our 75th anniversary. So also understand that it's going to take some time to get where you want to be. But we work with bands like back in Trinidad, there are a bunch of upcoming steel bands that call us all the time. We sit with their management teams, we give them ideas, we introduce them to people so they have connections. Because as I say, your network is your net worth, right? So when you can have someone who can open a door and introduce you to somebody who you can have a funding conversation with, that's important. And the reality is that things like this allow us to take that and spread that to more and more people. Because many people don't know even how to start. So many people don't know, how am I going to get in contact with somebody in this person's office or whatever. But you might know them, or you know somebody who knows them. And that's what we have to start doing and realize, you talk about unity, somebody mentioned unity. It was you. That's where it comes in. Like if we get closer together and use the resources and pool stuff together and contacts and realize, okay, I can help you on this project because you're going to help me on this project later on. We're going to do all of this. That's how you're going to really help get it to the next level as well. Because we see a lot, you're talking and I was getting excited saying, wait, but they said, I'm going to gold mine here. There's so much if you now started and I was like, this is a gold mine. So, I mean, I talk plenty.
That's
So
all right.
feel free to shut me
No,
up.
but there's something he mentioned
No,
also.
So go ahead, Mom.
Yeah.
We got a few more minutes before we got to wrap this up. So I got one more question I want to squeeze in, but
Okay.
turn it to Mother Sister.
Sure. One important thing that our brother mentioned was that the Ministry of National Security took that initiative to really work with BP Renegades to develop the Institute for Youth.
Correct.
So think about that, because they saw the crime and the issues that was happening to young people in our community, in Trinidad, was a national security issue. So, right?
True.
Okay, so just planting that seed right there.
And just to add to that, we know national security. We know national security everywhere gets the biggest budget. Just saying.
All right, so the buzzword is national security.
Everywhere, right?
And public safety.
Yeah.
It sounds like the business model is a public-private partnership
Yes.
where the government comes in, acknowledges where resources should go, and facilitates the partnership with the corporations that then fund that, and then we make it happen.
Oh, let me
All
add
right,
one thing.
is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, but let me add. I like this. In Trinidad as well. In Trinidad, just so you know, the government has established tax breaks for companies that sponsor arts and culture.
Yeah.
So also companies can claim back a percentage of millions of dollars in tax breaks
That's the
based
benefit for them.
as well on how much. But just to make it clear, that's a new thing that was implemented over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But back then, like we're talking more than 50, 60 years of corporate sponsorship of steel bands and stuff, and I wasn't there before like that. But now in terms of government policy and stuff, companies can also get tax breaks and other benefits due to their sponsorship of creative arts and stuff like that, and of course registered entities. So what the government also tries to do is they try to get all these steel bands to be registered, just so that there's some consistency and some management over how the industry is done.
Yeah.
And the government is not who manages it. So example, in Trinidad, there's an organization called Panchinmego, which is basically an association of steel bandsmen, where they vote a president, we vote in the executive from within the pan community, and they help, have the conversations with government, they help travel the costs, they help put policies in place to help protect the industry and for things that will help it grow. So that's something.
Well, I also think it's the degree of difficulty for us in implementing the same public-private partnerships as a business model is that BP and other oil companies needed some good PR and needed to put some money into something positive, and because they're benefiting from that publicity as much as you guys are benefiting from the resources.
Well, let me just add to that, right? Just to correct that. When Amoco started sponsoring Renegades 53 years ago, they actually did not want their name. There was no requirement for it to be the Amoco Renegades. The members from the community actually said, we want to put your name in along with ours so that it gives us a greater level of importance in the world. So the band members decided that they were going to use the fact that this big global company was associated with them to help kick open some doors. But it was definitely not BP and Amoco never had that requirement. They never asked. They didn't ask for any credit or anything like that. It was the band members who said, you know what, we acknowledge what you guys are doing for us, and to show our appreciation, we want to put your name there. Like that, even in our history, I'll give you one of our history books. In our history book, that was always one of the points that everybody thought was pretty remarkable. That it was that the members from the community said, yo, we're gonna use you as much as you're gonna work with us, we're gonna use you. So that's how it came out.
All right, mutual benefit.
Yeah.
Because the point is, we don't have any oil companies in DC. What we have is law firms and lobbyists, and they are just as damaging, but they are quiet damages, and I'm not sure that they will see the value in getting behind any of the arts and culture unless the government was active in facilitating that public-private partnership. All right, so that's the business model that we are looking for, and we are gleaning from you and the success that you have. And I think you did an outstanding job by sharing that information and resources, because oftentimes people have a successful business model and they hold it close to their chest because these gatekeepers are actually here to prevent any real changes from occurring, and that is a problem unto itself. hence the revolution will not be funded. But we want to definitely commend you for being forthcoming and sharing those resources and that information so that others can benefit from it as well. We just got 5 more minutes in the program. I want to remind everyone that rhythmandsteeltour.com, you can get your tickets for the next show here in Washington, D.C. It's happening December the 9th at 7 p.m. at the Sports and Entertainment Arena. The other champions, home of the Mystics. Thank you to Events DC. Thank you to the Mayor's Office of Caribbean Affairs. And again, it's rhythmandsteeltour.com to get your tickets for this show. All right, we got closing comments. We're going to start at the end because you know my brother got strong lungs. All right, and we appreciate him for that. But we're going to make sure that mother sister get the last word, okay? It's going to be
Yeah, I'm thinking backstage passes to the event tomorrow. I want to be able to be back there and see the grit, right? I want to see the step by step. I want to see what you guys do before you start playing. I know my team, we a lot of go-go bands, they pray before they play. I want to come see that, be a part of that. So, yeah, tomorrow in Southeast, my backyard, the Great Ward 8, St. E's, just a heads up, there used to be an insane asylum, right? So if you feel a little crazy while you up there on stage.
Mental Health Hospital.
Okay, Mental Health Hospital. Shout out to Fanny Fox and Wilbur Mill.
Definitely, we look forward to an amazing show. Like, guys, come out. Like, I think it's gonna be something. There's Steel Band and then there's Renegades. You know, come on and see it. It's world class. It's one of the best steel orchestra in the world. You know, and it's that way for a reason. The type of music, it's gonna be 2 hours of music. We're talking more than 25 hits across multiple genres of music. I guess I'm Google in there. Try to think. But definitely thanks for having us. You know, as I mentioned, we flew 9.5 hours to get here, so it's been a while. Came from very nice, warm, hot tropical climate into like -1 degrees. But it's been nothing but love, and I definitely wanna thank all the people from DC who are coming out to the show. You know, Renegades have done. We've experienced a lot of really great warmth. Also, big up and shout out to Monique and Luis McSween. The team from Caribbean Productions, thank you so much for just organizing the entire tour, managing the tour, getting so much moving parts, guys, from customs and all these different. It's been a lot. So thanks to Caribbean, and I definitely look forward to seeing everybody at the show tomorrow.
Man.
Hopefully, is it working for me?
As long as you don't hear that hum.
All right. Well, look, I think today it was really important not just to have a conversation. I think this is the beginning of a relationship. Planting these seeds are really critical for us in our communities. I want to make sure that we begin to focus on our youth and help them to see globally, see themselves in other spaces. And this is one way to start with that. And a shout out again to the Mayor's Office on Caribbean and Community Affairs, because this is the conversations that they are important to them. And also yesterday's event, the workshop at the Kenilworth Recreation Center, teaching young people how to play the steel band. So more of this we need, more of these conversations, more of these best practices sharing, and let's just take these things further. Unity is critical for us, but unity in terms of how we empower young people is even much more great. Thank you so much. Peace and blessing. And hello Trinidad and Tobago. Home, I'm coming home soon.
Good.
Come on.
All right, before we get out of here, I got to read a quote from my favorite Trinidadian, and that will be Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. And he says that there is a higher law than the law of government. That's the law of conscience. And the secret of life is to have no fear. It's the only way to function. I want to say that to all my fearless artists out there. We have just been given the keys to the city, the keys to international, the keys to the African diaspora, and it is the public-private partnerships that we need to be pursuing, and we need to make sure that the government that's supposed to represent us sees the value in the work and the arts and culture, and make sure that the resources are brought to the table to make sure that these kids, as a public safety program, as a national security program, are engaged positively. And that means that you make sure that you get the resources into these young people's hands and see the value of their own culture, so they see the value of their own selves. And then just maybe they'll see the value in each other, and we can never have any problems with this violence committed against each other. All right? So Just Paul, Mama Eureka, and PP Renegades, straight from Trinidad, 9-hour flight.
Hot weather too.
You didn't bring no rum with you, did you? You didn't bring no rum with you. No,
We bring pepper sauce.
your pepper sauce. I need some rum.
Yeah,
You need
we
some
need
pepper
rum.
sauce. All right. This has been We Act Radio. Happy Come On Freeman, Anglo Black Man Therapy, represent the radical side of Monarchy Avenue. We Act Radio is the underbelly of the nation's capital, and we are proud to be the main media outlet that has been beating the drums about this great art form from Trinidad. And they're exporting steel drums, steel pans,
And the
pans. And we are meshing it with go-go here on buckets, all right? Because our culture can't be stopped, all right? And the words are, who's the brother that said, ain't no culture without agriculture. This has been dedicated to Baba Aduno, all right? Rest in peace, Baba. All right, I see you guys at the Rhythm and Steel Tour. Get your tickets now. Do something.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
I
Kimon.
almost forgot Baba's name. I went blank.
Oh, we're doing. I know that. It's all right.